Shorty, how you doing today?
Chillin', what's going on?
What's going on with you?
I'm alright.
So you had a big
It's a
weekend.
big weekend, big NFL weekend.
Uh-huh.
Gonna go into my NFL conference championship games. Recap. Two games. One of them better than the other. But we'll get into it. We'll start with the NFC championship game between the 49ers and the Eagles. San Francisco 49ers 7 points at the Philadelphia Eagles 31. Blowout.
Down.
I called that game. I said the Eagles would win that game. I expected it to be a closer game. But game came down to turmoil with the 49ers quarterback injuries. Their quarterback injury situation has been awful all season. They lost Trey Lance. They lost Jimmy G. And on Sunday, they lost Brock Purdy. He's been playing well since he's been starting at quarterback for the 49ers. He tore his UCL in his elbow. He's projected to be out for 6 months.
Wow.
And he may need surgery.
So he's... Oof.
Yeah, he hurt his elbow early in the game in the first quarter. And he came out. Mind you, Brock Purdy is their third-string quarterback. Put in their fourth-string quarterback, who they only had since last December. Josh Johnson. Fourth-string quarterback coming into a playoff game. He ends up going out, I believe, in the third quarter with a concussion. Basically no quarterbacks. Brock Purdy is forced to come back in the game with his elbow injury. And he basically was ineffective. He had to basically hand the ball off to running backs.
Yeah, because what he has no nerve.
He
right?
couldn't.
No
Yeah, he was
feeling.
he was having numbness in his arm, and obviously that's due to the tear. So he couldn't really throw the ball. Couldn't throw the ball past 10 yards for sure. So when you have a great Philadelphia defense, or pretty much any defense,
any NFL defense.
yeah, for that matter, probably any defense, they know what you're gonna do. They know you can't really throw the ball. So they're just gonna load the box up, and they know you're gonna try to run the ball. So what can you do at that point? And that was basically the story of the game.
Right.
Jalen Hurts didn't have to play extremely well. He just had to do his job. He didn't have to do anything spectacular. They were able to put points on the board. The 49ers defense couldn't really stop them. The 49ers defense is supposed to be their strong point. But the Eagles were able to move the ball, and the 49ers were only able to muster 7 points. You don't have a quarterback, and you're not going to be able to win.
Right.
Period. So story of the game ends up being the total yards. San Francisco, 164 total yards. Philadelphia, 269 total yards. San Francisco, 3 turnovers. Philadelphia, 0 turnovers. First down, San Francisco, 11 first downs the whole game. Philadelphia, 25 first downs. I mean, when you dominate a team like that, there's nothing you can do. And when you have that quarterback injuries to 4 quarterbacks, 2 early in the season and 2 in one game.
Insane.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily rooting for the 49ers, but I did feel bad for them.
Sure.
I felt bad for them. I was rooting for the Eagles to win that game. I thought, not really rooting for them. I like Jalen Hurts, but I'm not really an Eagles fan. But I was hoping they would pull through, but not like that.
Right.
I wanted it to be a competitive game. I wanted Brock Purdy to remain healthy and see what he could do. I definitely thought it would be a closer game, but when you have those type of injuries, it's understandable why it wasn't close.
Right. It was kind of sad.
It was sad because in a game like that, a big game like that, You got this guy, Brock Purdy, who's making a name for himself. And in one of the biggest games, his biggest game of his career, this is what happens.
And even Johnson, it was.
And even Johnson, yeah, that too. Josh Johnson, you know, he had a moment.
He had a moment.
You know, people didn't really know who he was unless you really follow the 49ers like that. Most average fans didn't know who Josh Johnson was. You know, I barely knew who he was. You know, and for a four-string quarterback to have his moment, and his moment doesn't last very long because he ends up with a concussion, it's terrible.
Right.
So prayers up to them. Prayers for them. Hopefully they have a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
And all ends up well with both of those quarterbacks. Next game, AFC Championship. Game was a bit more competitive. The Cincinnati Bengals, 20 points. At the Kansas City Chiefs, 23 points.
That was the game.
That was the game. That was the game. Until defensive end Joseph Asai decided to just end the game. And not in good fashion. Not in good fashion. Wow.
Just wow.
Just wow. Oh, wow. Wow.
Ooh, that was quite the moment there. He had a moment.
He had a moment, and it wasn't a shining moment. It was not a shining moment, but it was a moment. A moment I'm sure he'd like to take back. You don't hit a quarterback going out of bounds, whether it's Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, whoever. You don't. You just don't. You don't, especially at the end of a game. At that point in the game, it's the end of the game, that's 15-yard penalty that you can't get back. And it's a 15-yard penalty that leads to a Harrison Butker game-winning field goal from 45 yards. If you don't knock Patrick Mahomes out of bounds while he's out of bounds already, if you don't knock him down, the game most likely goes into overtime. Because at that point, you're out of field goal range. Harrison Butker's they're probably not going to go for that kick. So there's a chance that you extend the game into overtime, and there's a chance that you could win the game in overtime. Doesn't mean that, because Patrick Mahomes was having a heck of a game on one leg. He was amazing.
He
was amazing considering the circumstances. He was amazing. You know, he played well enough to win. You know, and it's, you just can't have that play. You can't have that play. I understand this guy's young, 22 years old, first season, but you can't. You just can't make that play. You can't. Patrick Mahomes was definitely out of bounds. It wasn't like he was just get out of bounds, like he was just going, like, it wasn't like a bang bang play where it's like, oh, you can see, why it happened. I mean, both feet were out of bounds.
It wasn't even momentum.
It wasn't. I don't believe it was a momentum. I think he could have held up on that play.
And it's not like he didn't know they were out of bounds.
It's like
you can see the people on the sidelines.
Right. You see the people on the sidelines standing up. They're not playing.
They're not playing.
They're not in the game. Field. So that means you're out of bounds. Even you're out of bounds.
Everybody's out of bounds.
The whole play was out of bounds. I mean, you knocked the man to the ground.
Out of bounds.
Out of bounds. That's an automatic penalty. That's unnecessary roughness. They're gonna throw that flag every single time.
Every time.
Every single time. Every single time. I know it's your job to hit the quarterback, but you got to hit him in bounds. And even if you hit him in bounds, sometimes if you hit him too hard, you're gonna get a penalty. So you definitely can't hit him when he's already out of bounds. He gave himself up out of bounds. That means you cannot touch him. And even one of his teammates was like, you can't touch him. And it's in that situation. You shouldn't do it at any point in the game, but you can't fix that. You can't make up for that play at that point. You end the game at that point, essentially. And, the young man, I hope he's going to learn from this. He was distraught. I get that. But you just can't make that play. You can't. You can't. You know, this the thing in sports is say know the time and the situation. Know the time of the game and know the situation. There's certain things that you cannot do in certain situations in any sport. And he's gonna have to really learn from that.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to learn from that. The guy was having a pretty good game too, and it's unfortunate. But you just can't make that play. You can't make it. You can't make it. You know, you got a lot of people want to have compassion, all that. Yeah, compassion to a certain level, yes. But you still cannot make that play. You let your team down when you do stuff like that. You know, and I'm sure the guy was not trying to hurt Patrick Mahomes. You know, but you know, at the same time, like I said, you just can't make that play. Moving on, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was okay. Wasn't great for Joe Burrow. He didn't have a bad game, but he didn't have a typical Joe Burrow game either. It was not Burrowhead. Definitely wasn't Burrowhead. It wasn't Burrowhead. Joe Burrow was 26 for 41, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks though. Joe Burrow also had 5 sacks, which is not completely his fault. His line did not protect him early in the game.
Yeah, that was rough.
His O-line did not protect him very well early in that game. They got better as the game went on. They started to protect him better, but still, he couldn't even have a good initial part of the game in the beginning. He couldn't really get off in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just because he was getting hit too much.
Right.
Mahomes, on the other hand, he was sacked 3 times. But a lot of that was due to that leg, like that ankle. It was really hurting him, and he powered through. This guy was 29 for 43, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Clearly had a better game than Joe Burrow on a bad leg. I give Patrick Mahomes the utmost respect.
He's that dude.
He is that dude. And I was saying,
didn't know
and I was wrong about this game because I had the Bengals winning this game. But my one caveat, like I said last week, was Patrick Mahomes' health. His health still wasn't that great. He looked pretty good in the beginning of the game. He looked fairly healthy in the beginning of the game, but as the game went along, you could tell that ankle wasn't healed, and it wasn't going to be healed in a week. But he toughed it. He really toughed it through. He made valuable plays in that game. He made big plays in that game. And Patrick Mahomes, it was a message. He's the man. He is the man. A lot of people are saying Joe Burrow. Other people are saying Josh Allen. And I mean, they had valid reasons why they were saying it. I was the person that was saying that too, to a certain degree. I didn't say they were better than Patrick Mahomes, but I was like, these guys are coming, you know. But Patrick Mahomes said, not this year. He said, not this year. He said, I'm still that dude, and I believe it. Yeah. So another thing, Jalen Hurts, obviously going to the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick Mahomes obviously going to the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. This will be the first time there's 2 black starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Awesome.
I got to mention that.
Yes.
I got to mention that. To some people that might not be big, but that's big to me.
That is definitely big news.
It's big news to me. First time ever. The black quarterback situation in the NFL has been an interesting journey, and it's been a very tough journey for the black quarterback in the NFL. I remember years where there were very few black quarterbacks in the NFL, very few. And it was discouraged. It was discouraged to be a black quarterback in the NFL. There are a lot of teams that would not hire a black NFL quarterback. There are a lot of teams that would not start a black quarterback. There are teams that had the belief that a black person, period, was not smart enough to be quarterback for an NFL team. If you were a black quarterback, a lot of times they try to dissuade you from being a black quarterback. They would try to change your position. because they didn't think that we were intelligent enough or had the leadership qualities to lead a team. So that's why this is very important.
Right.
Obviously, it's not unusual to see a starting black quarterback nowadays. It's not unusual. But I remember a time where you had Warren Moon, who was the former quarterback of the Houston Oilers back then. Obviously, there's no Houston Oilers anymore, they're Houston Texans. But back then, they were called the Houston Oilers. You had Warren Moon, Doug Williams, who played for Washington. Doug Williams was actually the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. So it was black quarterbacks were very scarce back in the day. So the fact that we have 2 in the Super Bowl is big. It's big. So I just wanted to mention that. Super Bowl prediction.
Uh-oh. Oh, boy.
I'm not going against Patrick Mahomes again. I'm not doing that again. I thought Joe Burrow was going to beat him. I'm not doing that again.
He said, sure, you're right.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do that again. Patrick Mahomes got 2 weeks to rest his ankle and get some treatment on his ankle. I think he'll be better even than he was this past weekend. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs over the Philadelphia Eagles in Arizona.
Okay.
That's my pick. I love Jalen Hurts. I just think Patrick Mahomes' experience is going to win over the day. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get another trophy.
Okay.
That's my pick. Chiefs over Eagles.
Oh, boy. Sound off in the comments
Yeah,
below,
let me know.
folks.
Let me know.
Let us know what you how
Let
you
me
feeling
know,
about
but I'm
that.
not going against Patrick Mahomes again. I'm not. He didn't have to prove anything to me. I knew he was nice. But I just thought maybe this was going to be Joe Burrow's year. Patrick Mahomes proved me wrong again. I'm not going against him. I'm not going to go against him again.
Okay.
I got Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs taking home another Super Bowl.
Nice.
That'll be it.
All right. Well, again, make sure, let us know how you're feeling in them comments below. Get a good chat going. And make sure you hit that like button on your way out. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss an upload.
Yes, indeed. Peace.
Peace.